Thank you very much, Chair. The first thing I want to check with the NDPP is the guidelines that they provide to the other units in terms of assisting them. This is in relation to the statement the NDPP just made that you may have the best prosecutor and have a weekly investigated case, and the two don't give you a success in terms of prosecution. What are the guidelines that are there? You may not go into them into detail, but at what point do you converge and make sure, in particular, these corruption cases? Because today, as much as now we're dealing with everything else, we're here to make sure that the corruption cases are put to rest. People are in jail for stealing from the people. Because I am not getting a sense that prioritization is given to corruption cases. And I'm not getting a sense that there is synchronization amongst the law enforcement agencies. Then we have an issue of court cases that take forever. But that also is influenced by how long the other processes are taking place. I'll make a case in point. I closed my laptop now. There's a case of 2012 amongst the cases there. Then a proclamation would have taken place maybe 3 years later. And then after the proclamation, that will take another 2-3 years. Then it's sent to you. You still send it to DPCI. But for someone who's seeing a case of 2012 with his worth above $500 million, $500 million, is looking at it and say, but there's no hope. Because there ought to be a place where there is synchrony in terms of the prioritization and the aim of making sure we are ridding this country of corruption and ensuring that we have successful prosecution. And it lies with the National Prosecuting Authority to make sure that we don't take cases which are not going to get us anywhere to court, as much as all the other agencies would have pushed the docket through. But when it reaches that point, at what point do you say, this is not going to be successful, but there is a loss? And you made another statement to say you are for the poor. There's a loss to the poor, but the action doesn't talk to the loss to the poor. The agency doesn't talk to the loss to the poor. So at what point do we converge and make sure that things are done properly? I'm also interested into, as much as the IDEC was established last year, where are we with it in terms of isolating these corruption cases to a point where the portfolio committee on justice is also advocating for the agency in moving for judges and magistrates who will predominantly look into these cases of corruption and precisely make sure that there is movement. Because if we don't have a strong IDEC, then we don't have cases that are piling up, which are putting pressure into the system for the system to establish more courts and employ, or rather promote, more judges, magistrates to ensure that these cases are dealt with. Now, there is another, I would say, I'll put it this way, that justice in South Africa is very expensive for someone who doesn't have anything. And there's been now a lot of Section 174s in courts where prosecutors are found wanting and they can't prove their cases against accused. Then magistrates have to tell the prosecution that there's nothing here. You are arguing absolutely nothing. This person must walk. What do you do in that case as an NDPP? Because here you are sitting with a prosecutor who's wasting time on something that is not there. Meantime, the court roll is piling up, and a person keeps postponing a case that is not there, to a point where then the accused apply, and the court agrees that, yeah, there's nothing here. What happens to such prosecutors? Because at the end of the day, those are the civil claims that come to the state. And there's nothing that we are hearing in terms of the accountability on the weak prosecution. This also links to, I think my colleague partially asked this question. I would disagree with you if you say the DPP of Eastern Cape acted recklessly by appointing that prosecutor into another case, because there is nothing that said this particular prosecutor must not be given work of any kind. How do you say that? The moment you have a case or a transgression against a prosecutor, there must have been some sort of suspension of that particular person, but the person is here, is on the payroll, is reporting on duty every day. How do you expect me to sit with a person who's not gonna get a job when we have cases piling up? Cases are here piling up. We have a person who's walking in the door every day. We're expected not to touch that person, yet the person is not on suspension. There was no message. Your messages are against each other. Don't use them, yet the person is here. What is the message that you want to send? Are you suspending the person, removing them from the system so that they are not of use, as well as they are also not intervening with whoever is investigating them at that workplace? So I'll disagree with you if ever you had maybe charged the DPP of the Eastern Cape or reprimanded them, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do of removing the person. Now, this also links to what we were talking about earlier on of Umuthoso versus Guptas and versus Bushiri. We may be saying these are still ongoing, but the fact is that it's unlikely that Umuthoso will ever come back to this country, because we released him to get out of the country. We're not getting Bushiri. Bushiri now is reviewing his own country's outcomes. In his country, we can't touch him. We allow Umuthoso to get out even when you are saying you are appealing the decision of a judge. But then he's out of here with all the crimes that he has committed, serious crimes and the violation of its young children. It's not even women. It's young children that he violated. Yet we'll sit here and be like, no, we will go to Nigeria, we'll talk to Nigeria, maybe will listen to us, unlike the Arab Emirates. We don't know that. We have no control over what Nigeria will say, will do, and what it can decide in terms of this person. And this is all happening because the National Prosecuting Authority, again, is in the middle of these cases that do not find successors. So I'm not sure what would be the best way to deal with. The NDPP should tell us, what is it that must be done in this country? Is it training that is lacking? Are these people doing their job or not doing their job? What are the assessments that are there that you carry out throughout? I'm sure there is yearly assessments for everyone. What are the assessments? Are your assessments telling you that these are the people who are fit and proper to prosecute over cases that are serious and ensure that we get successful prosecution out of that? Now, here is another observation which is very problematic for me. And earlier on, again, in DPP, you say there is no executive who has ever come to you to interfere in any way possible. I'm not going to say you are not correct, but here is what my observation. Both DPCI and yourselves, the way you move is very coincidental with political events. I'll give you an example of many cases. In the Eastern Cape, which is a den of thieves, corruption of the Eastern Cape is out of this world. There was once a funeral of the late Tata Mandela, and then people embezzled funds, corrupted and everything. To this day, we're seeing people, when there is a political event in the Eastern Cape, which is aligned with leadership and anything, then we're going to see the Hawks arresting people. And then after, once conferences are over and everything, then no one is being arrested. Same applies to how the cases and people are charged at the NPA. I'll make an example with one case now. The case of Ace Magashule. He was charged, and then he was on a step aside. He's being prosecuted. Time and again, the case is postponed as if something is happening, but something is not happening. Because if you listen to the reasons of postponement of that case, which is not reaching its finality, again is National Prosecuting Authority. So the problem is that you also made that statement just recently, I think about 2 weeks ago, that there are elements of interference within the NPA, and there is political interference in the NPA. So if that statement is not true, or which you made, and today you say there's no one who has ever interfered, why did you say that? And why are the events that have been taking place very coincidentally aligned with political events? The last one, Chair, is the witness protection. And unfortunately, I'm going to go back to the case of the late Comrade Cindy Somakak. May his soul rest in peace. There was once a witness, I think in our second parliament, who was on radio saying, I can't go home. I'm a witness to Makaka's case, and the NPA has failed to protect me. This person was talking on radio. And my colleague, Maduna, also mentioned that there's been other people who died. It's not like people don't know of these corrupt elements and who are behind them, but there is a lack or none. There's zero protection of witnesses in South Africa. And it only takes the SIU proclamation to look into the cases when people could have laid cases way before the proclamations are signed. And even these proclamations are as a result, most of them, of people calling the SIU anonymously to say, look into these particular transactions that are taking place in these areas. I don't want to be known. Just go there and look into it. Imagine if people were not scared of saying things that are happening as they are, knowing that we'll be protected. We wouldn't be where we are today. What is the state of witness protection? And how can people come out safely and say, here is corruption taking place? We were just now in OR Tambo to see Etsonyeni Dam. A lot of money has been spent already. But there's just a wall. Even yourself, if you go there, you will be ashamed. There's just a wall and some few bags of cement that's laying there. But there's no accountability as to who is responsible for that. But people do know, in particular service providers. Service providers in the Eastern Cape tell you, we would like to say that politician A, official B, official C have been telling me if I'm going to give them 10%, I will get this gig. I did receive a tender and I invoiced once. 90% of it was taken by officials and politicians. That is why I left the site. That's why I can't go back to the site. I don't want to be involved in the Eastern Cape tenders anymore. But those people don't want to come up front and say those things. They don't want to refuse with that money because they're going to end up dead. And there's no protection for them. Now, I want to understand, how do we get this right? Because for as long as witness protection is not there, corruption is going to thrive. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Chair. I left out the case of SAA and SA Express, the IDEC people. If we can get the SAA and the SA Express progress report, because there is a mention of it's a complex matter. We nearly lost SAA to people who wanted to buy it in some shady deal, which fortunately was shut down by Parliament. But you are writing here, it's complex. And can we get that progress report as well?
Zanyati and Nkebe Kanyane. I think Honourable Mente asked questions about guidelines and prosecutor. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, if I can start maybe with the question of the NTPP did mention, and I think this is going to go back to the questions by Honourable Member Mente and Matiwan about this case of Forte. I think the NTPP did allude to the fact there that you know the matter is receiving attention. It's actually allocated to myself to look into it. So the extent of the investigations, honourable members, maybe I may not want to divulge the details. As to the reasons why, honourable members, the prosecutor remained there after the issues came to the attention of the NTPP, I think that is an aspect that we will, after engaging with the personnel there, advise the NTPP upon. I think I can leave it that one at that. If I can kindly request members to allow that, maybe in a later feedback to SCOPA, we can update. But it is a matter that is currently receiving attention. As soon as this week, actually, we are engaging the team down there. I don't want to repeat the issues.
Sorry, can I say once that's done, so the Secretariat will just stay in touch with you. You can make a written submission, so you don't need to wait until we see each other again.
Okay.
But the Secretariat will be in touch with the NDPP's office.
Okay. No, thank you, Chair. The issues about extraditions and Chair have been traversed by the NDPP. The only thing that I may want to emphasize, in as much as, and the NDPP touched on this, but because it is fresh again from Member Mente and Member Matiwan, generally, and it's the issue of the UAE is very disappointing to all of us in the NPA. Broadly, we do succeed on extraditions. I mean, there are 2 now in the UK that are on appeal. They were successful, but these people are always appealing, So it is not something that is going to happen overnight, and it is a lengthy process. But I think comfort should be derived from the fact that it is a system of the legal jurisprudence applicable to international communities that we tap on. We've got treaties. Countries do demonstrate goodwill, and when the circumstances permit, they find the fugitives extraditable, and the fugitives just simply continue to fight. I think maybe the other issues about witness protection and the questions that Honorable Mender asked about accountability that the NDPP may want to exercise over her subordinates, I will leave those to her. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I could just guide colleagues, you could also, through you, Chair, deal with the allegation of a lot of Section 174 discharges, and if we have any response to that. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, yeah, there was that question. Thank you, NDPP. I'll be honest with the honourable member Mente about that I have not. I didn't investigate that before coming here. But 174 we all know is a legal process of the NPA Act. But I would like to suggest, Chair, with due respect, maybe Member Mente can give us details, but we don't get most of these cases discharged at end of state case. We are not getting any alarming signals that we are losing cases, because your 174 acquittal actually is a very, very borderline case. You may want to wonder why it was enrolled.
May I ask that we, for the public, just simplify what a 174 discharge is? That when the prosecutors have presented their case and the defense makes an application to dismiss without having to present their own case? Is that it?
Yes.
That is it. Okay, yeah. No, I like to just make sure we all know what we're talking about.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Member Mente knows about it very well. I'm joking. But it is that section, true, Chair, of the 17 of the Criminal Procedure Act, where the state leads all its evidence by state witnesses, and then the prosecutor says, I close the case for the state. And then the accused or his attorney says to the court, I apply for this accused to be discharged because none of this evidence brings a case for him to answer. And then the magistrate uses his own analysis. There are principles that apply, and then the magistrate, if he agrees with the accused, then acquits. And then it is, of course, a process that the NPA, if it feels aggrieved, can take it further. And the example is the one that is still fresh in our mind, the Nulane case, where all those accused were acquitted on 174, and there was a successful appeal. Thank you.